Hey guys, welcome back. Today we're going to do something fun. A lot of people ask me, how do you customize Business Central? How do you turn around and extend it? And so we're just going to take a brief glimpse. I do not want to dilute the importance of AL developers and what they do for our Business Central community at all. What I want to do is bust the bubble of confusion of how complex some of the simple things are. Because getting your data structure right in BC is actually relatively simple. What you do with it then is complicated. So let's take a look. 3 prerequisites you need to have here. Business Central, I've got Learn BC. Our demo environment, I'm in a production environment. The thing here that we need though is you need to be a Dynamics 365 admin or a global admin within your environment. I'm going to kick over to the admin center. And the next thing that we want to do is we want to create an environment. So I'm going to create one here, but copy, I'm going to call this dev, change it to Sandbox and hit go. And let's let that go. A dev environment's now created. We can click on here and copy this address. There's 2 things I want out of this. It's giving us the Microsoft Tenant ID that I'm going to need for our VS Code environment and the Sandbox name. Let's now jump into Visual Studio and see how this works with our third set of requirements. Now we're in VS Code. There's a couple of things before we get into it. Before we do anything, I'm using vanilla VS Code with some extensions. So from the application extensions, you can install multiple things. I've just got a bunch of them. So I'm going to scroll down slowly. You can take a look. AL Code Creations, AL Extension Pack, AL Formatter, AL Language, AL Navigator, AL Object Designer, AL Object ID Ninja, AL Test Runner, AL Toolbox, AL Variable Helper, AL XML Documentation, AZAL Dev Tools, and that really, there's a bunch of other things I've got here, but that's really the key ones that I use for what I do with Business Central. So I've gone back home. We're getting started. So, all right. It says here, show all commands. We need to start from the command bar, and we're going to use AL Go. Now from this, I'm going to create a project, and this project will just be called Learn BC Today. Okay, I'm just using the default repository directory. Now, when I'm using the full integration into Azure DevOps, I don't put things here, but just for this example and for you at home when you're trying this out, this works fine. We're going to use version 10, and it's now spinning up the repository. It's spinning up a folder structure, and here, Microsoft Cloud Sandbox or your own server. I'm going to go cloud. It's going to open up to a couple of configuration files one at a time. So let's just wait for it. So there's your launch.json. Let it keep going. And then we have a hello world. And I think we're done. So this is our brand new environment we haven't done anything with. Excellent. First thing I'm going to do, close hello world. We don't need that, and she can go. Off you go. All right. There's 2 files here that we need to configure. Your launch.json is about your environment and connecting into your environment. Okay. App.json is about your application. So what are we making today? What's it called? Etc. Okay. I've pasted in here some of my configuration that I'll use, and take a moment to run through it. The name, Learn BC PTE or per tenant extension. We could just call that PTE. Okay. Request launch, type AL. That's the web address for Dynamics. We're connecting to a Sandbox environment. The environment's called dev. This is our Microsoft Tenant ID. Break on error true. Launch browser false. I don't like that. It frustrates me. All the way down to enable long-running SQL statements, enable SQL. Information debugger, and the synchronize is on synchronize right now. So schema update mode, whereas sometimes you may need to change that to full sync. etc. Synchronize just means what we've written here, bring it into BC. All right, so there's no errors on this file. In the app JSON, I've called this Learn BC Today. The publisher is Learn BC Today. I could put a URL, a logo, all sorts of stuff in here. I'm not going to. The important thing to look at here is 3 lines. Number 1 is line 5, the version. I've called that version 21.2.0.1. So back in Business Central extensions, that's the version that will be published. Down here, we have our code units. You need to make sure that your code units don't conflict with other development that's done by partners broadly across the Microsoft ecosystem. Microsoft gives you between 50,000 and 100,000 that you can use. It is recommended that you stay within a low band and keep it compact, because you may do other PTE development. You may have someone come in with a custom PTE that stays under that band. So we recommend our customers stay between 50 and 60,000. So here we've got 50,100, 50,149, and I might just expand that a little bit so we've got a bit of space there. So we've got ourselves an error on this page, and the error is the cache can't be found. So before we go any further, we need to go back to our command bar, and we're going to hit Control-Shift-P, and we're going to say download symbols, and off she goes. Now this is going to pop up a request for me to open up Business Central and authenticate. There we go. We're all up and we have all of our symbols downloaded. And what's downloaded here is an ALP packages file. So effectively, it gives your code base an example of every table in the system. So if we were to look at, it depends on which one the items table in, but let's look at assisted setup. I can open up the table and see Microsoft's full coding of every single field, everything, you name it, in Business Central is all made available through the ALP packages, all right, referred to as symbols. All right, let's now get busy. We have a scenario where we're going to create effectively a brand table, and we want to associate a brand, not as an attribute, but as a drop-down box on an item card, okay? So let's go back to what we're looking at. We're looking at creating a table. So let's go do that now. I'm going to right-click, New File, Table, TAB, 50100. It's the beginning of our number range. LBC, the client abbreviated term, brands is the table.al. Okay. Now, we then go table, TTABLE, and it gives me the framework of building out a table. So I can just change the ID, 5100, and I can call this the brand table. It allows me to start with my fields, and I'm going to call this first one the brand ID. Okay, but I'm going to wrap that and code 20. So it's 20 characters, it's code value. All right, we're going to create 3 more fields. Field 2, field 3, field 4. And these are going to be text. And this is going to be brand name. This is going to be brand color. This is going to be brand URL. I'll make this 100 characters. The brand name can be 200 characters. The brand color can be 10 characters. We have ourselves the basics of a brand table. Down here on the primary key, we've got to turn around and say it's a primary key is the brand ID. That's our primary key. Anything else here we're not really needing. So that is a table. And so I'm just going to save that. And I'm going to press run and run without debugging. Now this is now running a fresh output. And you can see here it's created a package file. Now go back to I can see here an extension app file. But let's just wait for it. You'll notice once it's done, the bottom bar here will turn red and then go back to blue. So going into our environment now in Dev, I'm going to click on it. So we're here in Business Central, and there's a really cool feature that you might not know about. So if you've ever been in a customer or a table, doesn't matter what it is, and we tell people it's Control-Alt-Shift gives you the ability, Control-Alt-F1 gives you the ability to inspect pages, and it tells me here the customer table is 18. So I can, at any time, at the end of my environment, type table 18, and it's going to load for me the table in a table viewer. So this is all fields that you don't see. Okay. So if I go back into this here, into list, and this is all fields on the table. Have a look at that. That's a lot of fields. So the same principle applies here for our new table that we just created, called table 50,100 brands. So let's take a look at that, and we have ourselves a brand table here. That's the brand ID, brand name, color, URL. And that's also got the system IDs, created at, created by, modified by, and the row version. All right, let's pause here and go back to our code. We've got a bit of work to do to make this functional. So the next thing we want to do on our table, we've created ourselves. We want to create a list page. So let's go do that. So we have a list. I'm going to go new file, page 50100, learn BC, brand list.al. T page, there we go. Not two T's, 50100. Now, one of the things that confuses people is why am I reusing the number? The first table created needs to use this number, and then the next one will be 50,101, 50,102, 50,103. So the same also goes for pages, and then it follows 50,100 and so on. The first extension page, the first table extension, also start at 50,100 and they number through the sequence that's set within your app.json file. So this we're calling is our brands, okay? But the page type is list. The application area is fine, but this is lists, okay? And the table name is brand. And you're going to see it show me now. It can find the brand table. Now, I've got this as a repeater because it's a list, and we're just going to call this general. Now, my field names should be able to be looked up. Brand, ID, brand. Let's do it this way. Brand ID. So I'm going to copy this code section here three times. 1, 2, 3. And now I'm changing ID to name. Name. Color and color. And URL and URL. So we've got ourselves now a list. Now there's actions here. I've got a bit of stuff going on down here. I don't need any of it. I can disable the actions. So I'm just holding Control and / on my keyboard. Comments it all out. Now I could decide to do a few other things here. For example, card page for when we develop a card page. Now right now I don't have one, so I'm just going to comment that out. And the other thing is caption. I want to call this brand list. Now, why am I doing that? What I'm doing here is I'm saying, although the table is called our brands, I want it when it looks within the UI to say brand list. Now you could search either to come up with the same. We've got ourselves a page. Cool. So I've got a page. I'm going to do one more page, and this is actually a card. So let's do it. So when you list them, you can click on the ID and it will bring up a card. So let's do that. New file, page 50101, then Business Central brand card.al. T page 50101. Brand card, page type is card. All administration is fine, and we need to change this here to brand table. All right, got ourselves a brand table. Okay, so this all looks fine. I'm going to call this group here general. And what we're going to do is we're just going to drop in our fields here. And I'm going to just, so what are we doing here? Field, I'm going to do brand ID. Remember that brand ID. That's fine. And I'm going to do one more, and I'm going to call this brand name. Now, on a card view, it's broken down by tabs, and I want an extra tab there, but I want to call this details. So the tab will be called details. We're going to call this color, brand color, and brand URL, brand URL. Cool. Really, really simple. All of these actions underneath can be disabled or left there. It's not going to do anything. I'm just going to comment them out. So we've gone and added 2 more pages. Okay. Now, a very cool function you can run that I've got the extension installed for is I can right click and say format document on each of these. Format document. And then up on the table here, I'm going to create the XML documentation. And this maintains our standards. All right, there we go. We're cooking with gas and our problems are reducing. So hello world is now gone, so that's fine. Okay, let's go. Let's see what this looks like. Run without debugging. Okay, we can now go into Business Central. You're going to see an error here saying administrator has changed one or more extensions in the application, so the page you're working at had to be closed. So every time you publish, even if you're publishing to production, it's going to throw an error like that to your team. Okay, be super mindful because it can be super annoying if you're constantly publishing updates to a production environment. That's why we always recommend using a Sandbox environment. Okay, I'm going to search brand. Brand card's there. Brand list is there. I've now got a list of brands. I can create one. Brand ID, HP. HP. It's going to be... and we're going to create one more, call it Cisco. All right, really, really silly example. Okay, 2 brands, not a lot there. Let's go back and take a look here. So we've got a brand list. Now, if we search brands again, I can go to the list and make that a favorite, bookmark it. All right, but if you go to brand card, you can see the card here that I've got for this ID for Cisco, and you can see the layout of general and details, but the two aren't tied together, and the reason for that is this. Let's pull it up. And so let's go back to our brand list, and you remember we put this card page in. We didn't link the two together. Brand card. Now that's linked. If we go back now and run, Just wait for it. She's flashed red. We're good to go. Let's now hit brand list. You notice now it's hyperlinked on the ID. If I click the ID, it loads it like a card. There we go. So we're getting somewhere. So the next thing we set as our requirements is we're going to add on to an item. So onto an item, we want to go to the item and underneath the description. Okay. So underneath the description, we're going to add its brand. Okay. So just under here, it's going to say brand. Let's go do that. Firstly, before we extend the page, the item card, we need to extend the table items. So let's create a new file. Table. Do the naming right. All right, and now we're going to do table like that, but with extend on it, ext. 50, 100, there we go. We're going to call this item brand feature. All right, I need to create a data set here. So the first thing we're going to do is create a field. So this field is going to be called brand ID and code 20. So I'll show you a shortcut. Instead of doing that and bothering with any of that, let's go back to our table for the brands and let's just copy the field just there. See that there? Copy, go back here and paste it in there. And it's sorted just like that. The difference here is the ID needs to be the field ID that we're using in the table. Okay, I'm going to put some extra things on here that I think are important. So for example, the caption, it's the brand ID name, brand name ID, and the table relationship is to the brand table up here. So this field relates to the brand table and the field names are the same, so they should match. All right. So we've done the extension to the table. Let's now do the extension to the page. We go page, extension 50100, learn business central item card.al. All right. So last one, T page extend. Same thing, 50, 100. We're going to call this item brand code. And this is on the item card. That's the page we're editing. So what are we doing here? We're effectively saying our code unit extends the item card. We need to do a bit of layout here. And so I'm going to tell it to add after the description. So add what we're doing here now after the description. And from here, we're going to say field, brand, ID, okay, and one more. We're going to say application area equals all, because that's required for us. All right, so we're going to right click and go format document, tidy it up. I'm going to hit my page here, add XML, and I'm going to do the same back on my table extension as well. So let's clean that one up, format document, and looks like I've been pretty good so far. Let's just get this out of the way. And all of our files look pretty clean. So the last thing I would do, okay, in my environment, let's close all these files, right click, and just say close all. All right. I'm going to go back to my command bar and I'm going to use this reorganize files. It's going to ask me, are you sure you want to do it? Are you sure you want to reorganize these files? Yes. Check this out. All right. Now we have a solution that's laid out properly, the way that your source code should look. I'm going to change my version number now to version 2. Let's publish this and see what happens. Run without debugging. Files created. Remember, your debug console should show you what's going on. And when your bottom bar here turns from blue to red and back to blue, we're ready to go. And there we go. All right, I'm going to go back. It's going to throw me an alert. We've made a change. That's fine. Now, the deeper I am in the system, every time you click, it's going to give you that alert. So let's go to brand list and take a look. I can see here, I've got Cisco, I've got my card. I can add a new card and call this and so there we go. Keeping it down the IT line. I've now got 3 brands. I'm going to go home. I'm going to hit on items. And now on the item card, you're going to see a new field. Here we go. Brand name ID. And I can set Cisco on this one. And I can make this one HB. And I can make this one whatever I want, so forth. Now, I can go to town on this. If I wanted to extend the list, I could include the brand name in the list view here. It would automatically come out in your exports. It allows you to filter from it. Like, the list is endless of things that you can do here. The key out of this lesson here is this. It's not that difficult to turn around and create a set of data, your tables and your fields that you may need for your project to succeed. Don't overcomplicate it with your consultant, because this is the thing that gets super complicated and super expensive really quickly, is where dev turns off into an overcomplicated circle. The data you need is, I want this table with these fields, and this is what it is. It's a number, it's text, it's a code, it's a date, it's a currency, right? That can be summarized in Excel quite easily for a developer to knock together that table. And as you saw, I could knock a table together with 20, 30 fields in 10 minutes, okay? That is not the complicated thing. Adding the list to it, adding the page to it, again, is not complicated. Creating functions that are code units over and above this, and a code unit is what happens, for example, in a sales order when you click post. Okay, it is not a simple process. There's complex development that hides behind this. And then when you fire off one of these complex processes, that's where we want our development team to be focused with you. So if you're developing extensions for Business Central and you want to extend the system and make it adapt to your current business requirements, add fields, whatever, all of these are fine. We can extend the menus. We can extend your lists and your subforms on your pages. We can even customize your dashboard. Making sure you keep it simple with your data is number one. Okay, get your data in there, get your structure right in your sandbox. Allows you to start solving your business issues on your side with the planning team. Design from a UI perspective then can be the step 2, right, to pretty it up. As you saw quite easily, I was able to turn around and create here a breakdown by in tabs or pins, but a next step would make them show show more, show less, okay, and to turn around and have someone hidden by default and exposed by default. And so you can really go to town on that. But remember, just getting it in, that's the bit that gets you started with your business, and then it allows the developers to do the pretty stuff later. I hope you've enjoyed this. It was again, the whole thing end to end only took about 20 or so minutes if you take the waiting time out of it. I encourage you to try this. It's super cool. Write your own extension, create some fields, play with it, learn, and then start to see into the eyes of the developers and talking what they're needing to help you succeed. Thank you.